there, he'd asked me if I'd preach on Memorial Day weekend, and yeah, because I'm hoping to be at that time. I'm hoping to be in the book of Judges. So he said maybe you can find something in Judges that you want to preach on, because I'm trying to look more towards a character study. So I've been going through there, and I thought, well, maybe I'll try to do some of that for this morning, and then in the process, thank you. In the process, I'm way down here. I just feel God sharing other things with me as well. And it seems like He always does that. He has a message or a season that He wants to just use us and share with us. So as you ready to preach, there's some things I might integrate with both. So just bear with me here. I'm just getting over a cold that I had, and my whole family got it now. So I'm the one that's recovered, and they're all doing this. So keep them in prayer. But anyways, we see what's been happening in our world, okay? And it's been for a long time, okay? It hasn't just been since the last election. It hasn't been since the election before that. It's been happening in a long time. And, one thing that I've always learned, always known, and shared it in the Bible, is that sin is progressive, okay? And if you allow something in your life, and you don't take care of it, what happens? It begins to fester, and it begins to grow, and it begins to progress, and look at everything that's happened in our world, and think about from the very beginning of time when God created the heavens and the earth, God created the Garden of Eden, and He created Adam and Eve. A lot of stuff, none of this existed in the days of Adam and Eve. But it progressed. Now, yes, early on, we see a lot of stuff that we see now, we see happen, Sodom and Gomorrah, and all the other, Cain killing Abel, all the other sin, and since then it just progressed, and things just got worse and worse and worse, not in the amount, but sometimes in the severity of our evil that we allow to do. Why is that? Why did sin enter the earth? It isn't because Satan tempted us, but she did. But sin entered the earth because of what? Our choice. It was our choice. It was Adam and Eve's choice, the first sin. So we know that when Adam and Eve sinned, God said, how did you know you were naked? And Adam blamed Eve, and Eve blamed the serpent. Well, it wasn't the serpent. He may have introduced them to an idea, but it was because of our own choice. And sin in our life is because of our choices, because of what we decide. So if you look at the world, okay, if you look at the world, we either follow the Lord or we do what we want. And when we do what we want, it leads to sin. If we didn't have a will and we just followed after God, because that was what we're supposed to do, sin, there wouldn't be sin. Sin comes because of our own choices, because of our own will, because it's what we want to do. So that's why I believe in the Bible that we talk about sin, and is one sin greater than the other? Because all sin leads because of our choices that we make. Yes, murder is a bad thing. It affects people. But murder happened because of our sin. Now think about it, that when Cain killed Abel, there wasn't a law prior to that saying that thou shalt not kill, right? There was no law, but it was something that was a moral law, the moral thing okay, that it was something, because why did Cain kill Abel? Because Cain allowed his flesh to get involved. He did what he wanted. He was upset. He allowed himself to be upset because he allowed himself not to give the best of his offering. And therefore, when God didn't accept it like he accepted Abel, Cain got upset, his own choice. And he allowed his own choices to commit something that is not moral. Do you understand? That the sin in our life is because of things that we choose. Now, what I want to talk a little bit, I want to start there, and once again, it may end up in something different, is the story of Micah in Judges. Micah and his idolatry. Okay? This Micah is not the prophet that's in the Bible. This is a different Micah. So if you want to turn to Judges, chapter 18, I'm sorry, now it'll be chapter 17, we're going to start at. In verse 1, it says, Now there was a man from the mountain of Ephraim, whose name was Micah, and he said to his mother, The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, on which you put a curse, even saying it in my ears, here's this silver with me. I took it. So Micah stole 1,100 shekels of silver from his own mom. Why did he do that? Because of his own choice, because of his own desire, own want. I don't know what he wanted to go buy with 1,100 shekels, or if he wanted to have security or whatever it may be, but he took it. It was his own choice, his own desire to take it. Now, he goes only because his mom put a curse on whoever taken it. Micah is now saying, whoa, I better take care of this. And he went back and said, Mom, I stole the money. Here it is. And his mother said, and this is unique, may you be blessed by the Lord, my son. Now, who would say that to someone who stole $1,100 off of you? May the Lord bless you. So when he had returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly dedicated silver from my hand to the Lord for my son to make a carved image and molded image. Now, therefore, I will return it to you. Okay, so instead of his mother dealing with the sin because it's her son, I'll let you go. And I cursed you. Now I want to bless you. Because I don't want that curse to be upon you. Let's look at the world today. And it's not only just in our lives with our own children, but it takes prevalence there, that when our children do something wrong, there has to be some type of punishment, correct? If they did something, they took something, from somebody, as a parent, we're supposed to teach them and guide them, and sometimes that leads to a punishment. Sometimes it leads us sitting down and correcting them by word and saying, you don't do that again, and if you don't do it again, this will lead to here. Or it may be grounding them, from something that they like or whatsoever. Okay, at least, but she did not want that curse to be upon her son. So she turned it away from a curse and turned it to be a blessing. And notice that this 1,100 shekels was supposed to be for the Lord. So he steals it, returns it, and what does she do with it? She doesn't give it back to the Lord. She gives it back to him and makes a carved image from it. Makes a god, another thing, and return to him. So now here he has this carved image, okay? And he made let's go read down further. Then in verse 4, thus he returned the silver to his mother, and then his mother took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to the silversmith, and he made into a carved image and molded an image. And they were in the house of Micah. The man Micah had a shrine and made an ephod. An ephod was the thing that the priest wore, and the household idols. And he consecrated one of his sons who became priest. In those days, there was no king in Israel, and everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Okay, so here he is. I'm going to do whatever I want, and I'm going to make myself a god. But however, I know that the God is important. And if I want to be blessed, I need to have a God in my life. So he makes a god. Okay, he makes an idol, and he knows that it's important to worship, it's important to do all things. So he makes his son a priest. Now, what I want to point out about this part is that there's a lot of people who think that all I need to do is to go to church. And if I go to church and I can say my Hail Marys, or I can come in and I can pray, I can come up and ask for prayer, or I can come as long as I'm singing a song and as long as I give money, that I'm following Jesus. See, we know that if we want to be blessed, that we have to somehow follow Jesus. But the problem is that, like Micah and a lot of people today, we follow Jesus how we want to follow Jesus, not how he tells us to follow him. So basically what it is, it's like us going to Burger King. We're having our own way, right? Your own way. And that's how we live our life. Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of God in my life, and I'm going to do all this other stuff in my life. I have God, so therefore I'm a Christian. Therefore I'm saved. And I'm going to come to church, and I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to serve him in this aspect. For the rest of my life, I'm going to do what I want to do, but I'm good because I'm blessed, because I go to church. So Micah, here he is, and I'm not sure what's happening with him at this time, but he has one of his sons, and he made him a priest. Now in verse 7, so now there was a young man from Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah. He was a Levite, and he was staying there. And the man departed from the city of Bethlehem in Judah to stay wherever he could find a place. And he came to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he journeyed. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" So he said to him, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Judah, and I'm on my way to find a place to stay." And Micah said to him, "Dwell with me, and be a father and a priest to me. I will give you 10 shekels of silver per year, a suit of clothes, and your sustenance." So the Levite went in. So here he is. Now he sees a Levite who's dedicated to be a priest. And here he comes in, he goes, "You know what? Things may not be going on my life right now. That's because my son's a priest. You know, I made my son, and he's not really supposed to be a priest. But now there's a priest that's come in my life. And so I'm offering this priest money to come in and be my priest." And here's the problem. This Levite, okay, he wasn't a priest at the time. And some believe that is because he was too young to be a priest. But now this Levite comes in and says, "Okay, well, you want me? Okay, I'll lead you to God." Problem is that this Levite probably wasn't really in God's place to begin with, because he wasn't a priest yet. Now I'll do this. And what was that Levite interested in? The 10 shekels of silver. Okay, you're going to give me, and you're going to provide a place for me to stay. I'm going to have a place to stay. I'm going to eat. I'm going to get some spending money. I'm going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And I'll do what you want me to do. Let's look at some of our churches in the United States today. That we accept sin. We allow things to enter into the church because it's nice to have people coming into the doors. I mean, just a few miles down from where I live, there's a church that every day you drive by, there's a sign on the thing, you know, and one day was congratulations to these two men who were getting married, you know, and we love everybody. Well, yes, of course, we're supposed to love everybody, but everyone, you know, do what you want. So we have churches is allowing sin in a church because it's nice to have them in the seat. And we make a doctrine out of it. And then we have people in the world following, you know what? Your church, you're this way because you don't agree with this. You don't believe in this. So you're not a church of love, you're a church of hate. And we know that it tells us in the word that if we allow people to do whatever they want to do, we don't love them. We hate them. We're hating them if we allow them to continue their own demise. So this Levite enters into Micah's house because Micah wanted someone who would be officially a priest, and the Levite did. And it just began to fester. Now I'm going to skip on a whole lot, and we see in, that's one thing I want to point out, is at the end of in 6. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Isn't that the problem in our world today? We're all doing what's right in our own eyes. Why? Because we want it our way. Now let's look at a king. David. And I was at the Haitian service in Charlotte this morning, and I kind of preached on this down there. David, a king. And I really am, I want to say inspired, but I'm really intrigued by the life of David. Why? Because I believe David is just like me. Not that I'm a king, but because there's days that David is high and say, bless the Lord, and great, and Lord, your majesty. And then there's days where David has messed up and he's low and he's like, Lord, save me. Lord, I'm sorry. Lord, I need. Lord, why is this happening to me? Why? We question. And I feel like I'm David. And I bet you all of you at one point in time feels like you're David. One day you're high, one day you're down. One day you trust God, and one day you do it your own way. And I do that. And so I feel like I'm David. And so anyways, David was anointed king. And when was he anointed king? How old was he when he was anointed king? He was just a teenager. And how long after he was anointed king did he become king? 15 years. 15 years before he became king. What happened to David in those 15 years? I'm not saying David, prolonged it. What happened in 15 years? David went through a lot. He went through a lot. One of the first things he went through is a story that we all know, is that he went to face the giant. And he went to face the giant. And that's what the question I asked the Haitians is, what is your giant? In order for us to have victory over our giant, we have to understand what our giant is in our life. And I believe oftentimes we miscalculate, or not miscalculate, we interpret our giant wrong. We feel our giant is one thing, and that's not what the giant is. The giant is something else. And in David's life, the giant was Goliath. Fear. Okay? But he overcome that. He knew what God can do. In our lives, I believe it's fear. Now, as I told the Haitians, and I was telling someone afterwards that really, when you think about it, the Haitians, I know there's a lot of concern and worry about getting deported, wherever that's happening. And I understand that, and that can be fearful and all that. And what happens if they get deported? What happens if they get deported? Was the deporting, was that the giant in their life? No. The giant in their life may be, I'm not saying it is, but the giant in their life may be the evil, the hatred, the corruption that's going on in Haiti. That might be the giant in their life. The reason why I say that was the reason why they came here to the United States, right? Because of that giant. So maybe the giant in life is that corruption, that fear, that corruption, and the evil that's in Haiti. And God says that I can do all things. He can do all things. And they can face that. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. They're going to have to face that. But that's an example. In your life, what is the giant? There's a lot of things that we fear, but sometimes we fear the circumstance. We fear the look. And we don't fear the exact, or we don't, look at what it is. Satan likes to mash things, right? He likes to make, it's this, and this, to cover up the real reason. So a question, What is the real root in your life that God wants you to defeat? We spend all our time battling over here, and we spend time all battling over here when the giant is straight in front of us. And that's what we need to battle. So here's David. He goes and he fights and he destroys, he kills Goliath. What a great thing he did, right? What a great thing that God, a great miracle that God did. But why then still after that, it still took 15 years before he became king? Because I believe God was still molding him and shaping him. And what happened to David? He got banished from Israel. Saul banished him. Saul wanted to kill him. And David had to fight many more battles. Okay? So what does he do? He goes and he fights these battles. He's hiding. He's trying to get away. And a lot of times, I believe in this time that he was just doing it his way. So David, he decides, hey, he went to the tabernacle, the priest, and him and his men were hungry. So what does the priest do? Give them the showbread to eat. And he eats of the showbread. And his army eats his men eat of the showbread. And they leave. But there was someone there, and I believe your pastor had talked about this before, so I think I watched from the message. But Doeg, ever heard the name Doeg? Doeg was the man who was there, saw him eat, went and told Saul. Saul got mad, and they went back, and Doeg ended up killing all the priests. So David hears of it, and David's scared, and he's upset. He's all blame me, and he has a psalm in Psalms about that. But David also goes to Achish, Gath, the place where Goliath is from. And he decides to go hide in Gath. He goes hide in a place that his giant was from. And while he's there, so they can protect me. So while he's there, they find him. And the people realize who he was. And they kind of capture him, take him to the king, King Achan, and says, hey, this is David. And David now begins to get worried and scared. Again, not only is he now scared of Saul, now he's scared where he's at, what circumstance he got himself into. So what did David do? David pretended to be crazy, to be mad. And the king says, why do you have him here? Just let him go. Then David goes and hides in a cave with his men. Okay? So this is a psalm that David wrote at that time. He says, I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul shall make its boast in the Lord. The humble shall hear of it and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all my fears. They looked to him and were radiant, and their faces were not ashamed. And this poor man cried out, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. And once again, this is Psalms 34. And the angel of the Lord encamps all around those who fear him and deliver him. So David now begins to praise the Lord and bless the Lord. So I sought, and he heard me, and he delivered me from all my fears. Why? Now, why is God now delivering from all this? Because David just threw his hands up and said, you know what? Lord, forgive me. I tried to do it my way. I tried to handle it. I may have been impatient. And I did it. I pushed and pushed and pushed. I can ask you in your life, how many things did you push and push and push for and received it? And after a while, we realized it wasn't a good thing in my life. I shouldn't have done this. Maybe it wasn't the best. And we did it our way. Now, I'm not saying that because of that you're evil and God doesn't love you and forgive you. But when we begin to do it our way and put our hands into something, in all reality, we're sinning because we're doing it the way we want to and ignoring God. Now, is that something that God's going to send to hell for? No. That's something that we can get punished for? No. But we can go through circumstances. We can go through trials of our life because of it, because we pushed it, and God can deliver from it, which God delivered David from that situation. And God can deliver us. But if we are not careful, those few little examples of doing it our way, if we aren't careful with it, then it can go further. And as I said in the very beginning, sin is progressive. So as we begin to progress, doing it our way, now it begins to lead into other things. So then he goes on to say in verse 8, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who trusts in him. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints. There is no want to those who fear him. The young lions lack and suffer hunger, but those who seek the Lord shall not lack any good thing. Come, you children, listen to me. I will teach you to fear the Lord. Who is the man who desires life and loves many days, that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it." So first of all, it's telling us to taste and see that the Lord is good. What are we tasting? Well, we taste his way, right? We taste it what he desires, what fruits that he wants to give us, and taste it and be good. Back, once again, Adam and Eve, they had the chance to eat of any fruit they wanted, right, of the garden, except for one. And I can guarantee you that every other fruit that they tasted of was good. It wasn't sour. It wasn't too ripe. It wasn't spoiled. Didn't have the brown mark. It was perfect. And every fruit that was there that they were allowed to eat from was good. All we have to understand is that what the Lord wants for you, what the Lord wants for the church, what the Lord wants is for us to taste that which is good. What he has for us is good, right? What he has for us is something that is nutritious, that will help us grow, that will give us pleasure. It's one thing that the garden didn't have. It didn't have donuts. That's why there's no donut trees, right? There's no Oreo trees, no donut trees. There was good tasting fruit. Now, a donut tastes good, right? Oreos taste good, but there's side effects to that, right? There's side effects to Oreos and donuts and pizza and all these different things. But what God has, he is there, is for good. And it goes on, blessed is the man who trusts him. See, and that's where it becomes tough. We want God to work, and we believe that God's going to give us what we need, right? How many believe that God's going to give you what we need? How many believe that God's going to do us good? How many believe that God has our best interest in our heart? But the problem is, he has your best interest, okay? But your best interest isn't something that you always want. Lord, I want this, and I want that. Man, Matt, wouldn't it be so nice to have a brand new Ferrari in your front, right? No, you don't want to care about that? Okay, I would like to have a Ferrari. Be nice. You, Tristan? Okay. You would love to have a brand new Ferrari. Looks good. Man, Lord, I want that. And we look at to be what we desire. And it says that God will give you the desire of our heart. He's not going to always give you a brand new Ferrari. He may give you a 1972 Dodge Pinto, right? Nice old, safe, reliable vehicle. Right, Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah. You like that idea?
Yeah. I don't like payments.
But what he wants to give you is the best, and it tastes good. And he wants the good thing for you. Sometimes we have a problem waiting for it, right? And sometimes we have the problem, not that we don't trust him to give us what we want or give us what's good for us. We just have a hard time trusting him that he'll give us exactly what we want. I want it this way. I want my burger to be well done. But God's going to give you the burger, and it may be medium well. But we want it this way. And I think that's the problem. I trust that God will do anything he wants. He can do anything for me. I trust that he has my best interest. I trust all that thing. But my flesh also tells me what my best interest is. My flesh always tells me, that, I want this and I want it now. Joyce and I, we're in a process. I can't believe that we're doing this, but we're doing it. We're in the process of selling our house. We're moving again. Just 20 minutes away from where we currently live. It's closer to the church that we attend, and I'm over there 3 or 4 times a week. So it's still the same distance to work, still an hour from work. It's just 20 minutes closer to my church. And we found this beautiful house that we love. It's a ranch. And I think, yes, no more steps for me. And we have the ability to move her parents in if they need to. Our house now is a 2-story. So we're looking at them. So we found a house. We were looking at all these different houses. No. We found a house we liked. We put an offer on it. They accepted it. Now it's contingent on a sale of ours. Okay? And I'm like, man, I really love this house. I want it. It's supposed to be closed on May 7th, and I have to sell mine before I can really get it. And I really want this house. Okay? I really want it. Joyce really wants it. We're waiting to see if God really wants us to have it. Because he may not. I don't know. We put our house up for sale. And I had the desire, man, I want to sell quick because I want to know that this is going to happen. So I told Joyce, we're going to trust the Lord. And it's hard. It's hard because we're on day 5. Day 5. And we've had, 9 families look at it. Nobody's been offered yet, which is okay. However, it's also making me nervous. Man, I wanted an offer on the very first one. I wanted to get it done and over with. They had an open house yesterday, and Joyce says, I was really hoping we would sell it yesterday, and it hasn't sold yet. And I really want it done. Okay? I'm not saying that God doesn't, and I'm not saying he does. All I'm saying is that God has it under control. The problem is that in that time frame, and I catch myself doing it, and I sit down and say, Lord, I'm sorry, I have to do it. I have to just trust you. But we catch ourselves in a time frame doing this, right? And we worry about it because we want it done. I know God has the best interest. I know God has the right house. I know God will find someone to sell, has someone to buy our house. Or I know that if we end up selling a house, that's what God wants. And that's what's best. But in my mind, the best is this house in Alliance, this ranch. Mom, that's what's best. That's what I want. That's what I want. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm just saying is now I'm so focused, and we don't get what we want. Like, Lord, what did I do wrong? Why am I going through this? Is a giant. This is a struggle. Well, it really isn't. All I have to learn is to take my hands out of it and say, Lord, I'm going to trust you. And if you don't give me the house, then you must have something else in mind. And what it is good. So blessed is the man who trusts God. What is it in your life that you need to learn to trust God more in? See, it's not about what we want. And we can say that we trust God because I come to church. And people will come to church just to get what they want. Just for God to do something. And to me, that's manipulation, right? Lord, If you do this, I will do this. That's manipulation. It says, hey, Lord, you do this, and regardless of what you do, I'm going to praise you. If people want to come to church when they need something, they need prayer. But God wants us to come at all times. Blessed is the man who trusts in him. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints. There's no want to those who fear him. Now, I don't know why Micah, back in the first, I don't know why Micah stole that 1,100 shekels of silver. It was because of something he wanted, something he wanted to do. Because obviously, he was raised in a home that served Jehovah, because she was using that money to dedicate to God. And so obviously he was being raised in that, but he wanted something else. And that's where, once again, back to what I said, it's when our will, our desires, begin to take precedence over what the Lord wants for our life. So it goes on, once again, in verse 15. Verse 11. Come, you children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is a man who desires life and loves many days that he may see good. We need to allow ourselves to be taught. We need to allow ourselves, not just in the church, but we need to allow ourselves to let the Lord teach us, to show us what's right, to show us his way. And I think that's a problem in a lot of people's lives, is that we are so much in a hurry. We want our way very quickly. Now, I don't know about you, if you go to Burger King, you can have it your way, but it's not very quick anymore. But we want our way, and we want it quickly. And we don't want to wait. But though, when we learn to listen to him, and we learn to love him, and love the days that we see good. It tells us in verse 13, keep your tongue from evil, and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. When we don't get what we want, we begin to speak out sometimes out of, I don't want to say anger, we speak out of disappointment. Mm-hmm. We speak out of different things in our life, and we speak it upon ourselves. God doesn't want me to have this. I don't understand. I don't understand why does God, I don't understand this, I don't understand that. And we begin to speak these things. And God just wants us to speak his word. Lord, I know what you have for me is of good and not of evil. Your plan is what? To prosper me. Lord, your plan for me and my family in Ohio, your plan is for us to be prosperous. So if you don't give me this house, or if you do give me this house, I'm going to praise you, because I know that you're still going to prosper me. And then it goes on in verse 15. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the remembrance of them from the earth. Eyes are on the righteous, and his face is against those who do evil. Those who trust in him, those who seek him, those who do his will, those who do his way, those who say, you know what? I can't do it my own. I don't want what I want more what you want. I want to strip myself of my flesh. I want to strip myself of my desires. I want to strip myself of my wants. And Lord, I want what you have. And that's what he wants from us. He wants to strip those things off. Those who, want the evil, those who want to do evil, to get these things, they cut them off. The eyes should be on you. You should desire that, Lord, whatever it is you want from me, I want to do. I want to be faithful. I want to be obedient. And what is faithful and obedient? What is that in your life? For us, all of us, it's something different. Because what God is speaking to your life is not the same thing that he's speaking to my life. And what God's asking you to do is not the same as he's asking me to do. So what do we have to do? Is what he's speaking to us, we need to have eyes upon him and see that and hear that. And when we do that, his eyes are upon the righteous and he hears our cries. The righteous cry out and the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart and saves such as have a contrite spirit. Now imagine David in this instance. Here he is, he's saying this. Imagine him. Here he is, promised to be king. Here he is being chased and wanting to be killed. Here he is, who's supposed to be in a palace sitting on a throne. He's hiding in a dark cave. He's hiding in a dark cave. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart. Imagine how broken David felt in that time. Imagine that's when the Lord is near to him. And I believe it's in those times when God prepared him to be a king. Sometimes in our life, for us to be molded into what God wants us to be, we have to be broken. Right? We're the vessel. God is the potter. We're the clay. And he makes us into his image. And if we allow that image to be distorted in any way, God's perfect. He can create us any way he wants us. But if we allow ourselves to be distorted in any way, sometimes what happens, we have to be broken, thrown back in the fire, melted back up to get into that texture that's needed for him to reshape us again. So there are times in our life that we are to be broken if we allow ourselves to be in something different. And you know what? That brokenness is only for a season. There's pain in it. There's pain. It doesn't feel good to be broken. It doesn't feel good to be smashed and tested and tried and the fire to you. And you're just, but that's what's needed for God now to get his hands back in you to mold us into that image he wants. That's why he's near to those who have broken heart, to save such as has a contrite spirit. He's close to us. Why? Because now he's beginning to put those pieces back together again. Now he wants to begin to mold. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He guards all his bones, and not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous shall be condemned. The Lord redeems the soul of his servant, and none of those who trust in him shall be condemned. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Every situation that David found himself in, whether it was something that God just aligned or whether it was something that David found himself in, the Lord delivered him out of all of it. Even when David messed up, even after he was king and he messed up and he had an affair with Bathsheba, and David thought that he could fix it himself by having her husband come back home so that they could cover up the fact that she was going to have a baby. And that didn't work, so David fixed it by having him killed. God still gave him a punishment, but he delivered David out of it. So that tells me no matter what it is, no matter what it is in our life that our flesh wants, what we desire to have, we have the ability to be delivered out of it. We have the ability to say, you know what? I'm no longer caring about this. I don't care about this. Doesn't mean that we don't get it. Doesn't mean that God doesn't tell us to continue to pursue it in a way. But what I'm saying is that That's not important to me. What's important to me is the Lord. And he delivered me from putting something else on a pedestal above him. Now back to Micah and his Levite. So Micah, he got himself, serving himself a god, a false image. And he gets himself a Levite priest. What happens to this Levite priest? This Levite priest is there, and he runs into a bunch of guys. If you go back to Judges chapter 18, get back real quick, and we're going to finish here. That he meets a bunch of guys from the tribe of Dan. And they run into him, and they see this Levite and says, "You're a priest." "Well, why are you a priest to this man? We're the children of Dan. We're part of one of the tribes. You should come and be our priest." Dan was one of the tribes that didn't fulfill their promise, didn't fulfill what they were supposed to do. They didn't conquer the Canaan like they were supposed to do, and they held back. And now here they are looking for different land, and they found one, and they felt that the only way that they could have victory whatsoever is if they have a Levite priest. And they went and found someone who would go with them to conquer this community, the Sidonites. And they thought that's the only way they can do this. And so they go on, and what happened to the children of Dan? They took on Micah's idols. Here we are, children of Israel, who now just go and they take on the same idols that was being used by Micah. And the point there is that because of the sin of one man and then the sin of the Levite, that it now affected a whole tribe. What we need to do as Christians, and I say as for a family or your community, the church, the local church, whatever it is that when something is not right, when there's a false teaching or a false way of seeing, and I know this church, I know Pastor Tom, and I know all you, and I know you do this, that you don't stand for false teaching, but we see many out there that do. And sometimes it's easier for us to be quiet, right? And let everything go and not say anything. And I'm not saying that we go out there and go on Facebook and we go and protest churches whatsoever. But what I'm saying is that this is where we got to get on our knees and begin to pray. Not only pray that sin is taken out of the church, but pray that you have the opportunity. You know, there's many people that I deal with, and I have this woman that I work with, and she is a nice lady, okay, but she is in a relationship with another woman, and they're married now. And I can go to her and say, "Whoa, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong." I could do that, and I can just push her away. But what I also can do is introduce her to Christ. Introduce her to Christ, and that Christ, the Lord, begin to change her. Now, how does the Lord begin to change her? Well, if I introduce her to Christ, she will want to know more. And she wants to know more, who's she going to ask? She's going to ask me. And then as she asks me, I will just introduce her a little bit more, until it begins to be revealed to her. Not that I have to say that what you're doing is wrong. All I have to do is introduce her to Christ in his teachings. And I believe that will be revealed to her. So in other words, I need to come out and speak out against the idolatry and the evils, but you can do it in a way that God does, loving. Now, yes, Jesus did go to the woman at the well and said, "Yeah, you're not with your current husband, or you're not. You just haven't been divorced one time, but even the man you're with is not your husband." and exposed it. But I believe he just exposed it to her and didn't expose it to the whole city. He exposed it and opened her eyes. And I believe that's what God wants from us. Not, once again, not to expose it to the whole city, not to go on Facebook and boom, 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 but to preach the word. To say, you know what? A lot of things in my life, because it happened because it was my desire. It was something that I wanted. And it led me down a wrong path. It led me into a life that wasn't pleasing to God. Now, is there something in your life that you wanted so bad and you did it your way and it didn't do it towards a life that's pleasing to God? Isn't that a little bit easy to ask that question and let them ponder it? Oh, you know what? The church always says it's not this. Would that want it so bad? You know, just reveal God to them. And then God will reveal the sin to them. Once they find my Christ, God will reveal their sin to him. Yeah. So, I thank you for allowing me to come and to share. I said I had one message to do, and then coming down, and I can just feel God. There are things in my heart. You know, 2.5 hours on the road, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, if you're just praying, and what God can speak into your heart and all that. But I appreciate the time, appreciate all of you, and I definitely appreciate your pastor. Tom is one of the most caring, loving pastor. He cares about your growth. He cares about, you know, feeding you the word, the right word, and whatsoever. So, praise the Lord.
Amen.